Welcome to Thriving Your Love, a podcast where we will guide and help you improve your most precious relationships in life. This podcast is produced and hosted by certified emotionally focused therapist Claudio Vargas Silva, licensed marriage and family therapist, and Trisha Kim Walsh, also licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome back, viewers and listeners, to Thriving Your Love. It's been a while, Claudio, and we are excited to return back. And today we're going to talk about a topic. Again, I feel like I say this every time, Claudio, and I mean it every time, this is a topic that I see profound impact on almost every client I'm working with. And that's how early childhood trauma affects relationships. So let me start over again, is to say today we are going to be focusing on how childhood trauma affects relationships. It makes sense, right, Claudio, that as a child, our very first relationships in the world are caretakers. They are giving a sense of who we are, our identity, and everything that we learn in life comes from the eyes and experiences of our caretakers. And naturally, we rely so deeply upon them to keep us alive that we desperately want approval from our parents, from our caretakers. And so what happens when your caretaker, your parent, is the one that is causing trauma in the life of the child, and that child eventually grows up to being an adult, and their hopes and their dreams are that they will find a partner that will make them feel that they were lovable, because when they were a child, there were moments in the trauma that made them question that they were. So I am going to turn it over to you, Claudio. So much to talk about here. Where do we start?
Yes, you summarized very well, because for many people, what happens is that in their childhood, they don't feel loved, they don't feel connected to their parents. Sometimes they face abuse or neglect. And then when that happens, it remains inside of the person, that child that didn't feel loved, and that child wants to get that love and is trying to pursue that love. So the person is growing in age, but inside of the person, there is that child that is stuck there, hoping to get that love. And that is where people have problems, because it's natural that we, as human beings, we need someone, we want to feel protected. We are independent when we are dependent on someone, right? So having someone we feel really secure in the world, we have that strength, that motivation to pursue things and fulfill our dreams. So there's a natural need for connection, but at the same time, there is that child inside that is trying to get that love that the child didn't have in the childhood. So it is two things happening at the same time: the normal adult need for feeling close and feeling connected, and the child inside that is trying to go back, is trying to see if she or he is still loved and feel that connection as a child. So that's the problem, because in some way we need to notice, be aware of that child, and understand that we don't need that anymore. We are now adults. It's sad that we didn't have, so we need to grieve that we didn't feel loved and connected as a child. But right now, as adults, we don't need that love anymore. We can grieve and accept and move on. And that's where, like, how it's hard for some people, because they need to be aware. If they are not aware, they're going to be always stuck, always thinking that they need to go back. And no matter how much affection they find, they never feel that it's enough, that they keep on trying all the time to get that love, Trisha.
Right. And you said something that is really important for our listeners to feel and understand is this is a process of grieving. To make sense of what doesn't make sense for a child is they know something is wrong. The bond of a child to a caretaker, to a parent is biological, that there is this connection not only through blood, through genetics, but through, again, survival. And so the thought of not having the protection, not only physically, but an emotional connection, creates a deep, profound grief that something has been missing. So when I work with clients around trauma, they acknowledge at a very early age, they really something felt off, something felt wrong. And it could have been because of an addiction. It could have been because of finances. It could be as we face a lot of change in our country, they felt their parent or their caretaker was distracted or that they were struggling. And although they didn't have words or they couldn't make meaning of what was happening, they knew that by being in their parents' life, they felt that they were not important. They felt unlovable. And that created the fear and the grief of, well, then who's going to take care of me? And most of my survivors of trauma say at a very early age, they learned how to take care of themselves. So they became their own parent. And their dreams and their hopes would be someday, I hope that I find someone that I can share those responsibilities with in the way that I wish and I longed for and grieved for that my caretaker, my parent, would have been able to do for me. And so there's a tremendous courage in the journey of grief and loss and reconciliating. I lost my parent, even though my parent was physically there and maybe was providing food, providing a roof over your head. They felt that loss. And I find clients making up for that loss when they start dating, when they start having so much expectations of their romantic partner. And this terrible dilemma they're in is feeling too much. I'm sure you've heard this, right, Claudio? In our emotionally focused therapy work, often I find that trauma survivors will pursue very deeply, I need to be reassured that I am lovable, that I am important. But then I am in a dilemma as I don't want to come across needy, but I feel frustrated because I should be reassured by my partner. So I call this the honeymoon. Well, this is not what I call, but we can name this as that honeymoon phase, right? Is when you meet a new partner and the sex is wonderful, the connection emotionally is wonderful, everything about it, exciting, new, it's mysterious, it's fun. And as it gets more serious, that's when clients of mine will often say is, I'm so fearful that I may be unlovable and they could leave. I could be abandoned again, just like I was when I was a child. So I can't lose this. I got to do everything to make sure that I never lose this partner. And then there's high expectations of this partnership. And what this partner ends up being in a dilemma themselves is there's so much expectation for them to fill the void of the lost relationship that this individual had. You so beautifully said it, is the adult is seeking companionship, but the inner wounded child is seeking a repair from the grief and loss of their parent.
Hmm. Yeah, and what you said about the honeymoon phase, there is also another way of saying like booming, love booming.
Yes.
So there is that excitement because the child inside is trying to find a rescuer, a
Mm.
savior. I remember when I was young and my mom had schizophrenia, so she couldn't really be there for me. And when I was 2 months old, she even got totally psychotic and she wasn't able to like see that I was her child. So what happened is that I was constantly finding someone who would be nice to me, who would give me affection. And so there was that neediness. And when someone gave me some affection, oh, that was incredible. And I wanted to stick to that person. I didn't want that person to go away. So, but can you imagine that it stays with us? And what I noticed is that in different things that I did in my life, like such as music or even speaking at church, I was constantly trying to see if people would admire me, if they would like me. So we can bring this to relationship, but the thing is that there is always that doubt. that thought, well, I think I'm not gonna be loved because I don't deserve to be loved. So at the same time that there is so much expectation, so much wanting to be loved, but at the same time, so much fear. And that fear is so big that sometimes it becomes like, as I said, like suspicion, like we are in high alert. And everything that the person does or the person talks seems to indicate that maybe that person doesn't love us. So we become very attentive to any signs. And when we are so afraid of not being loved, we might find a lot of signs that might indicate that we are really not loved. And some things that people do, like they are totally unintentional, they are not paying much attention, but we take that as something that is really a sign that they don't love us, that they are cruel or bad, or they don't care. And then we protest. We protest what we think is a sign that we're not being loved. And when we protest, the person might get defensive, might get angry, and the person might react. And when the person reacts, we say, there you go. I knew you really don't love me. I knew I couldn't trust you. But at the same time, we are telling ourselves inside that that's a confirmation that I don't deserve to be loved, never gonna be loved. And we are constantly in that protest. And sometimes also, Trisha, some people they put up like tests
Right.
test to see if the person loves me or not. And we might ask for some things that are really hard for the person to do, like some couples that I have helped. In one case, the woman couldn't sleep at night, and her husband had to wake up early. He was very tired, and she wanted him to talk to her at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. If he did that, that would be a sign that he loves her, because he was sacrificing, he was getting tired. So all of that made her feel, no, this is really a test that I deserve to be loved and he loves me. But every time there was a new test, almost every night, and he couldn't really keep up with the test. So it is a difficult situation because the person is going to keep thinking and getting confirmations that he or she shouldn't trust, he or she doesn't deserve to be loved or is unlovable. And what we see, Trisha, in our offices when we are helping our couples is that we are helping them to heal those traumas from childhood. We are helping them to forgive their caretakers, the people who hurt them in their childhood through their relationship with their loved one now. So when they forgive their partner now, when they stop demanding from their partner, they are getting unstuck from their childhood. They are telling themselves, something, I can leave that behind. I can trust that I am lovable. I can trust this person now, and I don't need to have tests anymore. I don't need to be suspicious. I don't need to take everything as being a sign that I don't deserve to be loved. So I can let my guard down. I can relax. If my partner forgets to wash the dishes, if my partner forgets to respond to a message, that's not a sign that there is something horrible, that I don't deserve to be loved. I can really be more accepting and forgiving, be lighter, enjoy the relationship.
So beautifully said, Claudio. I have very little to add to that because it was so spot on. And I highly recommend all viewers, listeners to take note of this because there is such a benefit in doing emotionally focused therapy for understanding our attachment needs, because that's really what this is about. I've learned this from consultants. I've learned this from you and the thousands of hours of training. And Claudio, this really does hit home. I so appreciate you for sharing your own memories of when you were just a baby. And I can remember when I was only 3 or 4 years old, and my dad, who was my world, had a severe alcohol problem. And I could feel at a very early age there was something wrong. So, just as I'm telling listeners and viewers, this is not just something we're speaking about or studying. This is actually a lived experience that we've gone through. And through my own journey and through my own benefit of using EFT as a model, I've come to learn that I pursue as a result of what my consultant used to say is never again, never again do I want to feel that I'm unlovable or unimportant. And so we're desperate. We're desperate. And the grieving is so much is at stake. So much we have to lose our partner. Already we live in a very complicated world and we want family. We want friends. For those who have faith, we look to God, or we look to nature, or we look to the stars to say what keeps us going is love. Sue Johnson really, like so many of her other predecessors, Carl Jung and John Bowlby and Harry Harlow, some of the greatest minds to say is love is that medicine. And we are looking for it so profoundly. And when we don't get it, for pursuers, we pursue hard, we criticize, we get loud, we protest. And for withdrawers, the defensiveness is no matter what I do, I feel like I'm failing. It's not good enough. I'm creating more pain in this relationship, so why even try? And the very thing that the pursuer says to themselves, it's true. You don't love me. I knew it all along. Aha, I had you, just like you said. And what's really happening is the withdrawer saying is, I love you. But I sometimes feel like you only see the things that I'm not doing, rather the things that I am doing, such as this partner you said is, I need my sleep. I need to make money. I need to go to work so we can have a good life. So I need you to also think of me as I so want to listen, stay up with you, but I can't. My body won't let me. My mind won't let me. My boss won't like it. So it's like this terrible dilemma, right, Claudio? And we spend our career, our dedication to this work because we see the improvement for our couples, for our teens, our families, our individuals. And I love it. I love this work. I know you love this work. We've been doing this podcast since the pandemic. We're in this for you guys. We love coming to the therapy room and creating a healing space to say, I hear you. I understand you. You're not alone. And we can figure this out so that you never again have to feel abandoned or rejected or misunderstood. So healing happens here, right, Claudio? This is what the podcast is about, is we're helping our viewers and listeners know, have hope because we can do great healing and we have science to back it up.
Yeah, thank you for being with us today and for listening to our podcast, and be attentive because we are going to be back.
Sure will. And we love doing this with you all. So if you have questions, topics, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're going to keep this going, and be safe, everyone, during these difficult times. We're with all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We hope you'll join us soon again for our next episode of Thriving Your Love.